Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Let's Talk Parenting. Today I'm joined by a very special guest, Annie.
Thank you.
We go way back.
Oh, a long time.
Way back. Labridge Road, Kilburn.
Literally kids.
I was 11 when we met.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a long
long
time.
We are in we've gone past the mid-30s.
20s.
We've gone past the mid-20s, I've been told, ladies and gentlemen. Introduce yourself, please. Tell them what you do. Who is Annie?
So my name's Annie, otherwise known as Annie J, and I work in the housing industry, and I also have my own YouTube channel, which Francis is only coming to discover today because it's not something that I really publicize to people like friends and family and what have you. But it's something that I enjoy doing, like yourself, you know, like the things that I talk about on my channel are things that I am very passionate about and I like to share. And hopefully soon at some point you guys will see a bit of music from me because that is also part of my background. Yes, I am your typical grew up in the church, pastors in my family and all of that type of thing. So, and I do like to write music and compose music. So that's stuff that is in the pipeline that will be up and coming. But other than that, I'm pretty much just a bubbly, all-rounded, down to earth. I like to keep my head down, not really out in these streets. You know, I just focus on my grind, focus on my goals, where I want to get to. And that's a bit about me.
And you're doing well in life, though. Please allow me to say that, although we don't see each other as often as we should because life has taken over, but
yeah,
we keep each other in the loop every now and then. I'm there at almost every birthday party, every gathering, almost all of them. I haven't turned up for the last 2 years, I think.
You're right. And I think that's predominantly due to COVID.
Yeah. So the whole emphasis of this show, which I explained to you, is talking about parenting and the effects co-parenting has on kids, because a lot of parents use kids as a weapon in order to try to get one over their partner, either man or woman. I personally think is unhealthy for the child, not for the mum or for the dad, because we got our own traumas we can deal with or we're dealing with or need to learn how to deal with. I can't comprehend why we then, a lot of us, pass that trauma on to the up and coming kid. So I've been speaking a lot to parents, which you're not a parent yourself, but however you did grow up in a single parent home. I can testify to that because obviously we were friends from when we were young, but I never knew what it was like inside the home, inside you. And then you growing up as well, I guess you were protected because you had so many males around you, as in your big brother, and then everyone else from John Joe to Ricky to Robert,
uncles,
Kiflon.
cousins.
Yeah. Now that I'm talking about it, I don't remember a female around you. An elder female.
Oh, okay. Elder. There
apart from mum, of course.
Yeah. I had mum. Also, one of my cousins came from Ghana and lived with us for some years. I don't know if you'll remember her.
She lived in
She lived in Liberate Road, yeah. Have I just said our address on?
That's fine.
Well, that's fine. We don't live there anymore. We don't live there anymore. So that's fine.
Yeah.
Go see the new guys.
Number 62. I'm joking.
Yeah. But so I did have my older cousin that lived with us for a bit of time, and also
really, I don't remember her.
She was there for a while. Do you know what? If you see her,
probably
you would remember her.
But to be fair, it was always I would come over to yours. We just go straight to football.
Yeah, I was.
Football.
You're right. Football. You're right. I was surrounded predominantly by a lot of men. Rather than women. Like you said, the most influential woman that I had in my life for a lot of my years growing up was my mum. I didn't really have that many other female like mentors as such. You know, it was literally just my brothers, my cousins, you guys. So I was surrounded by a lot of male energy, to be fair.
What was it like growing up not seeing dad?
It was difficult. I'm not going to lie. It was difficult. You know, I grew up in a household where there wasn't always peace at home between my parents. It was quite a challenging time for them. and also for us as the kids to bear witness to, you know, the division and fraction that was between them. And it definitely has a lasting effect, I would say. You know, my dad not being there as I was becoming a young woman, you know, knowing the steps that I need to take in terms of dating and all of that type of thing, it definitely had an impact. And even though I had my brothers, I also had to learn a lot of it on my own. And I believe that if my dad was around to teach me certain things, what to expect from a man, how a man should treat you and what have you, then there are situations that I have been in that I could have avoided completely, you know. But not having him there, it had an impact.
So I think it is key for me. I believe if the home is toxic, which it was to some extent for you, it's best that parents go separate ways. But some parents try to make it work, and then it gets to a point where they can't no longer work, or it turns violent. What is it like being in that toxic place? Because, and I say this because a lot of parents, I don't know whether they mean to or not give it too much thought, they would fight in front of the kids. They're not realizing the damage it has seeing two people who mean the world to you arguing and fighting, because you're not going to take sides. You're not going to understand. You just a child.
Yeah.
What's that like? And I'm only asking because I think if we could hear from someone who's been through it, maybe some parents watching this will be like, do you know what? Let's take that to the kitchen, or let's wait till the kids have got bed, or let's wait till the kids are in school, or something not visible in front of the kids.
Yeah. Do you know what? It does have a really detrimental effect, and people don't think it does. Even whether it's in front of your kids or within an earshot distance of your kids, it's going to affect them. You know, everything that went on in my household, I didn't necessarily see it, but I knew it was happening. And sometimes I could hear certain things. And now, when I grew up and became older, I realized that there's certain situations I would feel more anxious in certain situations. And this will probably shock a lot of people, but the example that, you know, my father sort of left when I was growing up, it did make me quite resentful towards him for quite a long period of my life. But eventually, I was able to move past it, just forgive him and make amends and move forward, because I didn't want to dwell on the negative things that had happened. But in terms of growing up in that sort of environment, it does leave a lasting impression, and that manifests itself when somebody is now reaching their adulthood as such. The choices that they make, the people that they become friends with, the people that they date, those crucial years in your childhood and your environment and what you're surrounded by will have an effect on what your path looks like when you're growing up and the choices that you end up making. Now, another thing that I would mention is I, for a long time, did not want to date a black man. And that probably sounds bizarre to a lot of people. At 7 years old, I said to my mum, when I grow up, I'm going to meet someone, get married, have a child, and get divorced. I was 7 years old when I spoke that out to my mum because of what I had seen. So I, at that young age, felt that marriage was just an opportunity for you to have a child without having the backlash of having a kid out of wedlock. Because back then in my culture, you know, marriage was that was the way that you do it. Obviously now things have changed. Our generation is different and what have you, but that is how I was raised. So for me, getting married was just to enable me to have my own kids. Not even me thinking that, actually, hang on, if I have children and then I leave their father, I'm just repeating a cycle. You know, it might look different, but the outcome will be very similar to what I've been through.
It's interesting you said that at 7.
Exactly.
That's because the negative example your father showed you at the time. What did mum say? Do you recall? Or have you ever had that conversation again?
You know, I don't think my mum actually gave me a response after I said that at the age that I was. And it's actually funny that you mentioned that, because I spoke to my mum specifically about this literally less than about 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
And I asked her if she remembers me saying this, and she couldn't remember me saying this. She was obviously going through her own like difficulties and challenges when I was younger. And so I believe there's a lot of things that she may not have taken note of and remembered now. But when I did mention it to her, she was as shocked to hear it again now as I remember her being shocked when I said it the first time.
Because you're not going to forget that. That's a moment. You know, we all have moments in our life that are always there.
Yeah.
Did you ever have a conversation of Pap?
Yeah, I did, you know. And I went to, so my dad lives in Ghana. And the first time I'd seen him for a long time was in 2012. We went out and I had a discussion with him, and I just said, look, Dad, there's certain things about my upbringing that really affected me as an adult. And I wanted to address these with you and just speak to you about them. And, you know, he was kind of receptive, but he was also, you know, pushing back a little bit. And I do believe that that is to do with that African, you know, ego mentality. And shame, you know, that African traditional men tend to have or can have. Obviously not all of them. But he wasn't as open and responsive as I was expecting. And so that's when I realized that, okay, the response I get from him, I don't need to necessarily lean on that. What I need to do is just forgive him in my heart and know that he's a human, he made mistakes, and I cannot depend on him responding the way I want him to respond in order to move forward with my life. Because then if I lean and depend on that and it doesn't happen, I'm only going to stagnate my own progress in life. So that was how I tackled that. But we had a discussion about it, and I have seen him since, and every now and again we will touch on it here or there or what have you. But now I'm more focused on the fact that our relationship is improving. And for me, that is a blessing amongst everything else.
What was it like? Sorry, before we touch on there.
Yeah.
Do you now date black men?
Yes.
I knew that, but I just wanted you to say
to clarify for the world. Yes, I do. I love my black brothers. Okay.
That's another topic for another show.
For sure.
Maybe let's talk relationships. Who knows? Cypher, start working on that logo, please. How empty was you when he left the home?
Gutted. I remember coming home and he just was not there. I came home from school. I think I was in primary school at the time, and my dad wasn't there. And I cried until I fell asleep, which I'm sure a lot of us have experienced at some point in our childhood, no matter what you're crying over. But yeah, I cried until I fell asleep, and it hurt, you know, it hurt.
Can you describe the pain?
Honestly, it's almost indescribable, because it was such a deep pain to know that this man, because I loved my dad, you know, I still love my dad. And even though the example he set may not have been what I would expect, I still had a good relationship with him, and he was very fond of me. And so we were very close. So even though they had their issues and what have you, to just come back one afternoon and he's not there, it was really difficult. It broke me, you know. And I was I think I was 9 at the time. It was tough. It was tough to come home and see that he's not there. And it wasn't necessarily by choice that he left. I can't really go into it without exposing every area of my life, but he left and it was impromptu. And so there was no plan for him to go. And that made it more difficult because I didn't even get to say bye. And then imagine the next time I saw him, I was 9 at that point. The next time, I think I might have even been, okay, let me not say my age on national television. But I was young at the time. And the next time I saw him after that point was when I was 23. So that's
14 years.
Right. It might have even been, I seem to recall it's probably about 17.
Wow.
Yeah. So
during that time, you never spoke?
we spoke on the phone. So after that, the only communication we had was by phone or by email. I don't even think we emailed. I think it was just by phone or text message.
I don't think there was an email back then, Anita.
I don't even
you
think.
faxing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about.
MSN.
Yeah, when things
Yeah.
are progressing, and then technology is now. Now my dad is on WhatsApp.
Jesus.
If you don't know.
It's weird. Parents got this dead jokes on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
They forward the videos that you got 20 years ago. I'm like, Mom, you're only getting this now? What's going on?
Literally. I'm like, if I could unsubscribe to the notifications I get from parents, aunties, uncles, I would.
Yeah.
But I'm not able to do that.
They're just so... Anyway, that's another story as well.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a long time. It was a big gap. And we had communication. Like I said, it was on the phone. And he still would send, birthday cards where he could and things like that. But it wasn't the same.
Because I don't think... Which is weird. Which is weird. A lot of us grew up in a single parent home.
Mm-hmm.
We know the pain.
Yeah.
Which cannot be filled with no matter how much money you make.
Yeah.
No matter how nice your TV is, no matter how nice your house is, no matter how comfortable your bed is, no matter what kind of promotions you get, that yearning for your mum or dad, in most cases dads, can never be filled. So we firsthand know what it feels like. But what's really amazing is a lot of us are repeating that cycle.
This is the part that shocks me.
Like why?
And the thing is, Francis, I can't comment on people's situation, right? As parents, because I'm not a parent myself. So I don't know what
I can.
Okay, so you can give insight then into...
And I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again.
Yeah.
Unless the mother or the father is violent towards the children, there is no other excuse why women and men don't see their kids or don't allow their partner to see their kids. None. None.
I agree.
Like, unless there's health issues, safety concerns, none. Or we could say maybe the other parent is incarcerated. As the other parent, you might say you don't want your child to go to prison visits. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe because you don't want your child to see that environment or you don't want the child to see your pet. Maybe. Maybe in that case I could say, okay, I understand. Yeah. Not because he's got a different partner, not because he's left me, not because he doesn't contribute financially, not because he cheated on me, not because he hit me. Even if I don't condone men hitting women or women hitting men, I don't condone that. I will never will for as long as I live. Let's just say worst case scenario, a man hits a woman, right? But if that man doesn't hit the kids, or if that woman hits the man but that woman doesn't hit the kids, I believe allow them to have their relationship.
I think people would probably argue with you on that one, only because if they're capable of hitting...
It's a different relationship.
Yeah, but even so, if they've been capable of doing... I mean, when they got together, they may have thought they would never lay hands on the person that they're dating.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
Let's just say, he's hit you, but he can never hit the kids, or he'll never hit the kids. Then you should. Or if you're unsure, let's arrange supervised visits.
Okay, I think that is...
let your mother go with them. Let your brother, let your cousin, or get the authority. Even though it's not ideal, but at least...
It's a compromise.
The kids and the other parent are getting a relationship. Yeah. So for me, any circumstances outside what I said, I don't agree with it. I don't, because the pain cuts deep.
It does.
It never heals.
It does.
And as we said, we know how it feels like. So are you that hurt that you're willing to pass it on to your child. As you rightly said, at one point you said you would never dated a black man. Some women have gone on and kept their word. And that's trauma.
Yep, it is.
Some men have seen their parents hit their wives or their mum. They think that's normal. They carry on doing it now. Right? Some men, dad wasn't around or mums wasn't around. It's passed on. Now they're doing the same thing because they think it's normal. So when are we stopping this?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think your story is so important because we hardly hear the child. You know, we hear, I've had loads of parents here.
Yeah.
He did this,
She
talking
did
about
that.
the ex, did this, okay, about the child.
Yeah.
We know how you felt when you were, but now let's hear and that's why I asked you to come on, speak on that point of view. And for some reason, a lot of parents, we got this thing where we don't need to listen to our kids because we know better.
Yeah, no. The lasting effects of trauma are, you're not going to see it now.
Exactly.
They're not going to see it now. That is going to affect your child when they grow and become their own person. Then the scars and the trauma from their past will now affect how their future starts to look. And their environment that they grew up in their childhood, the people they were surrounded by in their childhood, or the lack of people that they weren't surrounded by in their childhood, is going to now affect them when they become of age. And it's not going to be at the point where you're having squabbles with your significant other or your ex or what have you. You're not going to see the effects on the children at that point. At that point, kids are preoccupied. They're playing their PlayStation. They're going to school. They're playing with their friends. You're not going to notice anything.
But they're soaking everything in.
They are soaking everything in. When people say that children are like a sponge, they take in everything. That is straight facts. We do, you know, and I think a lot of us, ourselves, me as someone who grew up in a single parent household, you as a parent and someone who also grew up in a single parent household, you remember the things from your past that really had an effect on you. Even now that you can recall all those years ago, certain specific incidents.
Like yesterday.
Right. You can just bring it up.
And
like
sometimes
it was yesterday.
The most scary thing is I think this is where the danger. I think when we remember it, it's okay. We can control it. We can bring that memory. We can dismiss it.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's when a memory just hits you. Like you see another father buying a kid ice cream or something. Boom. That triggers you.
Yeah.
A memory which you suppressed. Like a certain smell. You know, like walking past a certain area.
Yeah.
Or when the weather is so cold and gloomy, like that particular day where your dad promised to come, but he didn't come.
Yep.
And then those triggers, because like, whoa, that just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, but you remember, you know, my dad promised me a bike when I was like, I think I was about 4 or 5.
You still waiting? Yeah, still waiting.
Way past that sort of age. And I still remember that he promised me a bike that I didn't get.
You see?
You know? So these things, they stick.
100%.
And manifest later. So I then grew up feeling like people are not able to keep their word. Don't rely on anybody.
And that's wrong for a child.
And that is wrong for a child. And yet somehow that is still part of my makeup now, Francis, even as an adult, that I don't like to rely on anyone because I feel like people will always let you down easily because that's what I was used to as a child. And so I've built myself in a way that I try to be self-reliant, you know.
Which is good.
Good.
Not for the reasons why you did it.
Exactly.
Because it's coming from a painful place.
Exactly. It's like an auto defense mechanism, you know. It's a way that I protect myself unconsciously. I don't do it on purpose.
Talk to me about the forgiving process when you forgave.
Do you know what? It's really funny because my mum is the one that convinced me to forgive my dad. because she forgave him. And, you know, it was her and his situation, not mine and my dad's, really. So my mum forgave him. I hadn't. And then my mum told me something, right, as a child, and I will never forget. And this is what made me change the way I thought in terms of, actually, I should forgive my dad. And my mum said, okay, Annie, when somebody shoots someone with a gun, who is the person that is left with the wound and the bullet and the trauma of the gunshot? And I said, the victim, the person who's received the bullet. And she said, yes. And what about the person who shot the gun? I said, they're probably, you know, gone about their business and what have you. And my mum said, that's how it works. When someone pains you, the person that has received the wound, you're the one that is left with the trauma and the pain. And if you don't get it attended to, what happens? You could die. And emotional pain, emotional trauma is very similar, if not more detrimental than physical pain and physical trauma, because it has such a lasting effect on how your life can look if you harbor certain pain and you never deal with it. And so when she said it from that perspective, she was like, you're not forgiving your dad because you're wanting to do it for him. You're forgiving your dad because it's good to do it for you, so that you can move forward with life. You can succeed. Everything you do will be blessed because you're not harboring this trauma and pain, bitterness, resentment. That stuff will just hold you back. It will keep you bound and it will stop you from reaching your full potential. So she was like, forgive him and let it go. And it was at that point that I was like, do you know what? Mum, you're right. I'm going to forgive him. And it's probably one of the best things I ever did in my life, Francis.
Wow.
It set me free from a lot.
Credit to you. Credit to Mum. She's done an amazing job. It wasn't easy.
No.
What I want to say is we shouldn't have to be put in those situations.
100%. 100%.
Because we just kids. You know, we just kids.
Exactly.
And to a certain degree, when we were in that position, we were better off than the current kids because we had each other. We could go outside, we could play.
Yeah.
You know, we could crack jokes. We could do so much. We were a unit. Like Laveridge Road for us was a unit. I'm sure every other area in London, you know, there's a unit.
Yeah.
Where the kids of today, social media, mental health illness is at its highest.
I'm not surprised.
So, and being in such a state where you're watching someone you love, either be your mum or dad, take away someone else you love, either be your mum or dad, that's so much pressure. You know, and if you just turn on any advert, you see a happy family there. You know, you go to school, you see this dad or this mum picking up the kids in school. They say, oh, me, my mum went this and dad came, you know, all of these things. And then these kids now go home.
Yeah.
And then they just think, what did I do? Why don't my mum love me? Why don't my dad love me?
Yeah.
And it's so easy to rectify again, unless there's, you know, situations where harm or health issues.
Yeah.
As a parent, just allow your child to speak to the other parent, you know?
So literally doing that can avoid so many potential problems for your kids in the future, just by allowing them to have that relationship. Because
although you might be the main parent, you have no right to take away the other parent's right. Like you, as a parent who's left childcare, you have no right to take away. Don't do it for the other parent. And this is what I'm trying to say. This what this is about.
Yeah.
I don't care about me and you, Anita. I don't care. Like we can handle it.
Yeah.
You know, we have no choice.
Exactly.
But let's not pass it on.
No. Give them the choice to not have to handle it, you know? Because if you don't, you're going to force them into the position that me and you have had to go through.
And these kids are worse now.
Yeah.
Because we just need to look. Not saying violence wasn't around when we were around, but the level of violence is now more aggressive than
For sure.
when we were younger.
For sure. And also, just touching on your point about social media, like, I don't sit on social media so much, right? But I feel like how can I say? I feel like it promotes dysfunctionality.
It does.
It promotes dysfunctional family setups.
It does.
And so not only are your kids maybe going through or be in an environment where they don't have that strong family link and connection, but they are also on social media seeing this type of setup being normalized. And so they're thinking that it's all good. I don't care if my dad's not here.
Yeah.
I don't care if like my mum's barely around. She's always working and she's always leaving me off with a friend or what have you. Because this is what they're seeing as, you know, role model relationships. But again, the effect of it is going to be exactly like what me and you have spoken about.
If
and
not
what we've
worse.
been through. If not worse, exactly. You know, the trauma, the child might not think it now, but the trauma will catch up with them.
Can you imagine for me, it's shocking what you said at the age of 7, which I never knew. Obviously, I wasn't privy to that. I wouldn't know. And rightly so, your mum was probably so shocked. And she, as you said, she was dealing with what she was dealing with. So she suppressed that. Your dad is unaware of that. We know kids are resilient. We know kids are strong. So we just look at them and say, you're going to be all right.
Yeah.
But then let's do this. If someone leaves you as a fully grown adult, for whatever reason, either they're not happy, you're not listening to them, you're arguing, they leave, they move on. Fully adult, you're more in control of your emotions and feelings. If you are hurt because they left you, and just for argument's sake, let's say it's 50% your fault, for argument's sake.
Yeah.
Could be more, could be less, just for argument's sake.
Yeah.
Or let's just say 20%, whatever percent you want to give it. You had a part to play in it. Either you didn't listen, you wasn't talking, you wasn't communicating, the cooking wasn't on point, the sex wasn't there, you're working too much, you're not working too much, you're not making enough money, whatever it may be, right? And you had a part to play with, playing. You're an adult. You understand the world better. You can control your emotions, your feelings. You can cook for yourself. You can clean. You can go to work. If you are then upset and angry, can you even comprehend or fathom or try understand? I don't know what that little boy or girl, either from 1 all the way to 12 or even 13, must be feeling when you then take that person away. If you feel in pain as an adult, what is that child feeling?
Broken. They'd be broken. I felt broken when my dad left.
Some of us, see, for you felt broken. For you were able to deal with it. For you were able to forgive your dad, which is amazing.
It took a long time.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Some of us haven't even started that journey. We're just walking around bleeding.
Yep. And then the cycle continues, unfortunately. Because guess what? Hurt people hurt people.
We bleed on each other.
That's it.
What message would you have or advice or anything would you say to those parents who actively make it difficult to see the child?
As much as the situation that you're coming out of may have hurt you, you feel frustration, disappointment, anger, whatever the case, you know, like it is in our human nature for when somebody does something to us, we want to do twice back to them. But as someone who actually grew up in a single parent household and seeing my own life journey and how that affected me up until my adulthood, I would strongly implore you to not take your frustrations out on a significant other, ex, whatever they may be, for the sake of your children. Because if you are somebody who even grew up in a single parent household yourself, just like myself and you have spoken, Francis, some of these parents have been through that as well. And just think about how that affected you growing up, and the fact that you may have gotten to a point and said, I'm going to stop this cycle. I'm never going to let this happen to my children. Nobody plans to be with somebody for things to fall apart. But unfortunately, it does happen. And when it does happen, the first priority should be your children, because they're the next generation. And literally, depending on the environment and the way that they are now raised within and how they are brought up, the people they're surrounded by, is massively going to shape the type of person they are going to be once they become of age. So if they can see their parents, like you said, with the exception of certain situations, don't stop your kids from seeing each other. You know, like, you want them to have a sense of belonging. Even if you may not be living under the same roof together, you still want them to have a sense of what it is to come from a household where both parents are active. That is so crucial and important. And I think about if I had had that from age 7 to 21, or even just slightly before that, it would have made such a big difference in my healing journey. My healing journey would have been a lot quicker, you know, than what it ended up being, because I had so much trauma to backtrack on and to work on.
Wow. I couldn't second what you said better than you said it. But let's finish on your healing journey.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was tough, because sometimes you don't realize that the scars and the residue, I would say, from your upbringing has actually affected you in a certain way. Like, I had to do real work, cognitive behavioral therapy, counseling, all of that type of thing, prayer, church. I had to do everything to really be able to identify where this pain had actually originated from. And in doing so, I realized that a lot of it, or the majority of it, was from my early years. And once I was able to realize that, then I was able to now begin the process of healing. You know, forgiving my father was one of the first steps. But there was so much after that, you know, just acceptance of myself, believing in myself, you know, not worrying about things, because I lived in a household where we didn't know what tomorrow was going to look like. You know, when you've got two parents there, you team up, you plan, you get things done. Your kids don't have to worry or think about anything. That is such a difference to growing up in a household where you wake up and you think and worry about everything, you know? So the healing journey, it took some years, but eventually I landed there. However, having gone through that myself, I wouldn't want anybody else to have to go through all of that. So if you can, keep a solid unit, whether that is together, whether it's apart, for the sake of your children and how their emotional growth will look like, I would say do it.
I think the last point you made, you said something that's very powerful. Mm-hmm. Keep a solid unit, whether if it's together or apart. Mm-hmm. A solid unit, I like that, what you just said, which I always say on the show. Mm-hmm. Parenting doesn't have to come from the same roof.
No.
It does not. It really does not. So wow. And is there anything that you would like to share that I haven't thought of, covered or asked or anything?
Like I said, I am not a parent. So, and one thing I never like to do is presume how people behave or react in certain situations that I've actually not experienced. However, that said, as we've spoken about, growing up in a household where my parents were separated, And I know, having spoken to a lot of friends, we were always like, we don't want this for our children and what have you. But somehow it still happens, you know, somehow it still happens. And it just makes me think, okay, if many of us have said, we're not going to allow our children to go through this, we're going to do better. You know, we're going to make sure they have what they need. They've got that unit and what have you. But then we get to a certain point, we hit a roadblock, and somehow that plan starts to fall apart. And a lot of it is because of pain, upset, whatever. The other person has hurt you. The difficulties that people experience that causes us to, those of us who are from this generation now, not our parents, forget them. Those of us that are from this generation, that all of a sudden we now backtrack. We have to really, really give thought to that, you know? Like, I know the situations people have been in might be so difficult and so infuriating that we let our emotions get the better of us over sound judgment as such. And I would just say that sometimes we just need to, okay, take it back. Take it back to the time when you said, I would not let my kids go through this. Just remember when you thought that yourself, and then think and use that energy that you had back then. No matter what you're feeling now, no matter how vexed you are at their parent, the other parent, what have you, and just think about, okay, this is my child now.
Yes.
What is their life going to look like in the future if I move on my emotion? However, if I move on logic and thinking about their emotional future well-being, what steps can I take, you know? And I just wish that actually somebody was around to perhaps give my parents a bit of guidance in that respect. Because a lot of us, especially those of us from like the Black community, we tend to just freestyle. We freestyle, or we go off what our previous...
Or too proud to take any advice.
Exactly.
Or guidance.
Or we don't want to hear advice, you know? It's like, nah, I can figure it out by myself. I don't need anyone telling me what to do or what have you, you know? But that's why I was saying it more as a suggestion, because I don't like to advise people, because at the end of the day, we're all grown. Everybody's going to do what they feel fits them. But I say it as a suggestion, as someone that has grown up in that environment, that, you know, no matter how hurt or upset you are, please, 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 just think about how it might affect your kids, you know? Because sitting in therapy and all of that type of... that stuff is real. And again, that's another thing that Black people don't necessarily like to open up about and talk about, our mental health and our well-being. But it has such an impact on us. You know, it has such an impact on us. And then our pride on top of it, now I won't come and tell anyone about what I'm going through, because I want to appear strong. I want to be that strong Black woman that can stand on her own 2 feet. I never waver. I can carry all of this stuff, and I can balance and multitask and do everything I need to do and still be successful. Nah, sometimes I'm going through it as well. You know, I'm going through it, and there's healing that needs to take place. But if I had a better head start,
yes,
managing that healing process and getting to that point of totality and feeling competent and self-assured and efficient within myself, it would have happened so much quicker.
Wow.
So that's the last point that I would make on that.
Wow. I don't know. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing.
Oh,
I think we need more people
pleasure.
to come share.
Please.
Please like, comment, subscribe, but more importantly, share this to any parent that you know, even if you think they're not going through it. The whole purpose of us having this conversation is literally trying to help their next generation.
For sure.
And we're playing our part. Now it's over to you to play your part.
For sure.
Where can they find you?
So this is now going to sound very, very contradictory, okay? Because I'm actually on most social media platforms, and you can find me at Miss Annie J. I've also got my YouTube channel, completely different to Francis's platform. So it's very nichey. certain things I talk about to do with like women's hormonal health and things like that. But if you do want to find me on there, it's Annie J. And my other social media platforms are Miss Annie J.
Yes, and every single link to our social media platforms will be in the description below anyway. So
thank you.
Please look her up, and thank you for sharing, Miss Anita.
I am so glad that you decided to have me. Thank you.
I forced you though.
You low-key kind of did force me, but it's cool because we family. So
and it was important. I think it's important.
Sure.
We have to play our part.
100%.
Thank you very much, my dear.
Cool. Thank you.